You out there guys, this is Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft, and this is a video review of the ARES Amoeba Striker bolt action sniper rifle. Now I've owned this gun for the best part of 8 months, and that's really allowed me to clock in a lot of gaming hours with it. I've learned what the strengths and weaknesses of the platform are, and most importantly I've given it a chance to break. Now if there's a specific thing that interests you most, say you want to skip to the shooting test or go straight on to the conclusion, there are timestamps in the description down below, so click on those and it's going to skip to the part of the video that's most relevant for you. And with that out of the way, we'll dive straight on with the review. Now the Amoeba Striker isn't actually a replica of a real steel firearm at all. Although it takes clear design cues from the Remington 700 and the M40A3 used by the American Marine Corps, it's its own unique take on the bolt action rifle. As I said, the rifle is a spring-powered bolt-action one. It's clearly aimed at people that just want to experience airsoft sniping. They want a cheap entry-level platform into it. So maybe you don't want to commit to buying a high-end sniper rifle, but you want to try it out for yourself, but still leave room for customization. This is clearly what Amoeba was aiming for with this. The rifle comes in black, tan, OD green like I have here, and an urban grey colour. But if you actually want certain bits of the shell, such as the back of the buttstock here, the trigger guard and the front guard itself, can actually be interchanged with the various colours. So you can mix this up and put in grey sections or mix the OD and tan, whatever suits your fancy really. This rifle was really built for personalisation and customisation, as there's a wealth of external and internal upgrades on offer, even if most of them are not TMVSR compatible. Now I originally picked the gun up for £160 from ASP UK, and at the time of recording it is actually still in stock on their website, so I've included a link to that in the description down below. So what else can you expect to arrive with the gun when you order it? Well, first off, the gun's going to come in this very nice high quality presented box here, or I thought it was high quality until literally just the other week when the plastic carry handle broke off, but I've been transporting it to and from games for 8 months or so it's not done too bad to be fair. On the inside you're going to find yourself the Striker sniper rifle encased in this cardboard inner shell. Doesn't look particularly pleasing to the eye, but it certainly does the job, as the rifle arrived with no damage whatsoever on it. The Striker itself, a single 45 round magazine just here, and you get a tube style speed loader included with it. Now I've always thought these things are a little bit naff and a bit more hassle to load up than the benefit they give you. Just get yourself a proper speed loader, but it's a freebie. You also get this pamphlet included. I refuse to call it a manual because it is just too small for that, it's too short. However, it does provide a nice exploded view diagram on one side and a couple of little things about how to operate the rifle on the other. So it's a little bit light on wording, but the visuals are all there, and let's be honest, a bolt action sniper rifle is about as basic as airsoft guns get, so you don't really need a huge amount of technical information. So, free speed loader-ish. Not a lot of fun stuff in the box otherwise, but no real complaints to be fair. The outer shell of it is actually quite durable. It's a shame about the plastic carry handle, but other than that, a fairly decent package for the price. So my first impressions of the Amoeba Striker when I picked it up is that it's surprisingly solid, but also even more surprisingly lightweight. The whole thing is created in a polycarb stock with metal outer barrels, but it just looks chunkier than a VSR 10, so I was expecting it to be heavier, but it's really actually quite lightweight and manageable. The next thing I noticed was the texture of the thing. You're never going to confuse this for a toy, but something about the lightweight and the feel of the polycarb means that you're never really going to think it's a real steel rifle either. Just something a little bit off about it that I can't quite place my finger on, but just detracts from the realism, but it's not like it's uncomfortable to hold or anything. One thing that really drew my eye to this though is the fact that they've actually put the magazine in the correct place. What a lot of TM rifles, and especially the clones of them, like to do is put a magazine up here-ish in the actual front guard with a deceptively small inner barrel, because that leads to being able to put a large cylinder inside. What Amoeba have done in this case though is they've actually put the magazine in the correct place, which, whilst I believe is a plus point for the visuals and the realism of it, it does actually lead to some interesting performance characteristics, which we'll go into in the next section. So then let's go over the features of the gun, starting at the back with the fixed stock. Now, although the stock itself actually has some cutouts on the back bit here, because it's made of solid polycarb, it's still a little bit slippy in your shoulder. I really would have liked to have a textured, rubberized buttstock on the end of this, but minor gripe there. Moving forward, you have what looks like a sling mount. It's actually attached to the 2 body pins on the other side of the stock here that just keep this in place, but there's no corresponding front sling mount for it. With a bit of wizardry and some zip ties, you might be able to use the bipod mount up here as a second sling point, but it's not going to be comfortable when you use it. The gun's going to twist around on your back, it's going to be jamming into the lower back with your bolt and everything. It's not going to be nice, so I really don't recommend slinging this gun. Moving forward, you've got the pistol grip just here. Now, the really cool thing about this is it's actually removable. There's a little tab on the bottom, so you push that down and off that comes. Now, as I said earlier, you could swap this for a different coloured part if you really want, but the really cool thing is it's actually hiding two Allen keys in here. One of which is used to help disassemble the rifle, the other which is used to change the hop-up, which is located just in here in the top tack rail. A little bit of a note about that. If you're running a scope with low scope rings, or you're running it as far forward as you can, you will not be able to change that hop-up on the fly. It's going to be blocked by your scope. So what I really recommend doing is running some high scope rings with this if you want to adjust this on the fly. Otherwise, you're just going to have to set it before the game and leave it until you get back into the safe zone. So, a little bit of a note about the positioning on that. Moving back to the bolt. Now, anyone that's used a bolt action sniper rifle should be familiar with this. Lift up, pull back, push forward and down, and now the gun's ready to fire. Now, because as I mentioned earlier, the mag's in the right place, what this means, practically speaking, is that the bolt actually has a draw distance about half as long as a normal sniper rifle, and this catches a lot of people out there used to a different one. It's not really going to affect you if you don't plan on upgrading the striker, but what it means if you want to up the FPS of this gun is you're going to have to put in a much bigger spring to achieve the same FPS as something like a VSR, for example. This is because the cylinder has a low amount of air volume. What this means is that although a higher spring will push the air out of the cylinder faster, because there's still not that much air in there to begin with, it kind of runs out of steam before the BB completely leaves the barrel. So a way to fix this then will be to fit a smaller inner barrel, and I know that Bespoke Airsoft and Amoeba themselves are releasing some official outer barrels that are shorter to allow you to accommodate a shorter inner barrel. Then maybe you can put suppressor on the front, something like that. That'd be quite cool. But yeah, just a little thing to note about there, especially if you're upgrading it. If you're not upgrading it, however, one thing that completely baffles me is the fact that this is not a real steel sniper rifle, so why, oh why, did they put the safety on the same side as the bolt? I complained about this in my JG Bar 10 review. Essentially what happens is if you lift the bolt up not high enough before pulling it back, you've just knocked the safety on. So when you go back to pull it and you're wanting to shoot someone, tough, you've knocked the gun on safety and you've not even realised. It's got to the stage where I just push forward with my thumb after every single bolt pull because I just assume that I've put it on safe with every one. It just happens that often, and I've noticed just now recording the review just how worn the safety actually is, both from being hit from the bolt and my thumb pushing it back in place. It happens that often. So why did you, why they put it there, I don't know. It baffles me. On the other side of that, however, you have the cocking indicator, or you would have it if I didn't remove it. I took this off after the very first game I had with this gun because in the second game ever, it actually got caught. I pulled this charging handle back to prime the gun, the spring got caught on this, so when I'm pulling the trigger, nothing's happening, so I had to remove that entirely. So save yourself a lot of hassle. The instant you get this gun, take that cocking indicator off. First thing you do, it's going to save you a lot of trouble down the line.
I think my spring's dead.
Now, moving down to the trigger, if anybody who's been watching my sniping videos with this, you'll know already that I have a lot of complaints about this trigger. It's extremely spongy and it's got a dead man's click problem whereby I'm pressing it and nothing's happening. I start wiggling my finger around it, desperately trying to fire the gun off and nothing's happening. This has gotten me killed. It's stopped me from getting easy kills on people. It's really infuriating. And it's become more and more pronounced the longer I've owned the rifle. What this is that the trigger requires shimming. It's a very common problem with the rifle that has been identified with a lot of other users of it, so definitely something to look at fixing as well before you get in.
Oh, come on, trigger.
Another thing you might want to fix is to get the 90-degree aftermarket sears installed in this. As time has been going on, but when using the bolt, the last few mil of the return have been really, really stiff, and it kind of feels like you're having to slam it into place and then force it in by holding that. Now, I think it's a little bit to do with the tolerances of the shell and the internals, a little bit to do with the fact that the sears are rubbish, get the 90-degree ones, but two severe problems with the rifle that I think you really want to look at fixing before you even take it out for your first ever game day. Moving on from the trigger, you have the mag release. There's two of them actually. One on the trigger guard itself that can be operated with your finger. One just in front of it here that's like a G36 style that can be done with your thumb. Both are ambidextrous, just options for you really. Both are quite nice. I really like the mags themselves. They're 45 round capacity, really quite chunky, click into place nicely, no complaints with those. It says on the side that they should be able to hold 338 Winchesters were the rifle real, but 6mm BBs, fine for me, thank you very much. Now going right to the front of the gun, you have the flash hider just here, which you can unscrew so you can fit on aftermarket parts. And speaking of aftermarket parts, there are a lot of them for this gun. Amoeba is currently releasing a second wave of externals as well, so the options that are available are going to be massively increased, but things you can swap out are various things on the body. You can add different adjustable buttstocks onto it. A smaller magazine that for some reason holds 45 rounds, the same capacity as the normal size magazine. Why the normal one doesn't hold more then, I don't know. You can change different bolt handles, you can put like a 50 cal muzzle brake on there, or suppressors, different length outer barrels. The front guard, they're releasing a new one with like vertical and angled grips on there. So the options for external customization of this rifle are really wide and varied, and you can really make this personal to yourself. Although a lot of the parts in here aren't VSR10 compatible, upgrade kits for this gun do exist, so it is perfectly legitimate to get this up to 500 FPS and really performing and competing with other high-end sniper rifles. Won't do it out of the box, although the hop unit is quite good. The FPS is a little bit lacking, as I'll go into later. But if you want a package that is cheap to get into and has lots of room for upgrading, definitely consider this. So when I was last at Matlock Combat Games, I managed to get a shooting test done with the gun. I was firing from a stable position using 0.3 gram BBs. However, a couple of things to note were 1, the slight crosswind that was on site, and 2, the extreme cold, as I'm sure you can tell by all the snow on the ground. The results from that test weren't exactly great. A lot of the BBs missed entirely and the grouping was nothing to write home about. However, I don't think that accurately reflects the performance of the rifle. As I say, it was due to the extreme cold, I think, that really affected it. But I also didn't want to game the results and try and make it look better than it actually performed. So I just think it didn't really perform that well on the day. I know it can do better than that, but those are the results we got. When I actually took the gun in to be serviced at ASP UK, managed to get it chronoed as well using 0.2 gram BBs.
371, 368, 364, 371, 370, 366.
Now, as you can see from the test, the gun was actually shooting around about the 360, 370 mark. Now, what's really interesting about that is when I originally got it, it was shooting closer to 440. So that's a huge drop in FPS over the lifespan of the gun, which the FPS it's let us at, like 360, 370, you're really not going to be outperforming AEGs at that FPS. And the extremely annoying thing about that is it's actually still over the 350 minimum engagement limit. So although you're not doing that much faster shooting than the AEG guys, you still have to have a 20 meter minimum engagement range, which is a huge disadvantage. And since you don't have the high FPS to justify that, that's a huge negative in you, and it really affects your gameplay. So definitely not a good FPS result there. So where do I recommend you be on the airsoft field to get the absolute most out of the striker? Well, once you get it out of the box, because the hop unit's really good, and once it's brand new, so is the FPS, you can use the traditional sniper route of just hanging around with your squad at the back, taking shots at long range, keeping stealthy, that sort of thing. However, the more you use it, the more that FPS is going to decrease, and so that's not really viable as a long-term plan unless you want to upgrade the elite striker internally. What I found works really well for it is like a scout class. So the instant game on is called, you sprint off towards the objective as fast as you can and set up a forward position. What I like to do then is wait for the enemy team to come to me and take shots at them at distance. That forces them to take cover and really slows their advance so the rest of my guys can come in behind me and take the objective. What I really recommend though, if you're running the striker, is to get a secondary weapon. Because as I said, the FPS is going to drop, but it's still going to be over the minimum engagement distance. If someone can get within that 20 meter minimum engagement, you're not allowed to engage them. So you really need an extra weapon that can do that. Preferably something that's small, compact, and preferably an AEG with full auto, because no one's going to expect when they're creeping up on a sniper to just whip out a high capacity AEG and just hose them down with it. So definitely something like that is worth looking into, I reckon, if you're wanting to run the striker as your primary. However, it is a very versatile gun, especially once you put some upgrades into it and then you have the options of doing whatever you like. The bolt is actually quite manageable once you first get it as well, so I do think this is quite an accessible platform. So if you're the kind of person that's wanting to look into starting airsoft sniping, obviously, as I always say, try someone else's sniper first before buying one. But if you do want a first sniper rifle, this is not really a bad choice to go for. So ultimately then, would I recommend buying the ARES Amoeba Striker Sniper Rifle? I'll say yes, but with a huge asterisk on the side of that. Essentially, once you get the gun, remove the cocking indicator, the safety, and whilst you've got it disassembled, you might as well sort out the shims on the trigger and the 90-degree sear. Once you've done that, you're going to have an excellent sniper rifle for a very competitive price. As I say, those are big problems if you don't plan on changing them. They're going to make themselves very apparent in the coming months once you own the gun. It's going to be fine for the first 2 months, but after that, you're on your own with that. You really want to make the internal changes whilst you can. So ultimately, what I'll say is this. If you want a cheap sniper rifle that is reliable out of the box, get the JG Bar 10. If you want a cheap sniper rifle that shoots well out of the box, get this. If you want a gun that is both reliable and shoots well out of the box, but you don't mind spending a little bit extra, go for the TM-VSR. You can't topple the champion of the bolt-action sniper rifles, I'm afraid, with this one. However, that said, it is a very competitive priced entry-level sniper rifle with just a couple of little modifications that you'll do to really improve the quality of life with it. Once you get past that, the sky's the limit with upgrades for it, as the same with most bolt action, so then you can really make it your own and really make it a performer. But as it comes out of the box, a couple of little niggles, get them sorted and you've got yourself a very competitive sniper rifle. Now, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the ARES Amoeba Striker. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask me, or maybe you want to share your own experiences with the gun, leave them in the comments section down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And until next time, this has been Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft.